I'm going to be talking about Hades next video. Spoiler alert, it's going to be a lot shorter. So I lied. This video, we're going to talk about the history of Hades. And in the next video, we're going to talk about the characterization of Hades. I have to split this up because the history of Hades is very short and it's very weird. So we're just going to get that out of the way first. So to start us off, Hades is the Greek god of the underworld. Not death, but the underworld itself. He's the king of the basically afterlife, but he doesn't directly do the killing. Hades showed up in around the 6th and 7th century BCE. Now, we can find him in different works of literature like the Homeric hymn to Demeter and the Iliad. The problem is we tried to go back and look at Mycenaean sources, which we don't have a lot of. We can't find him. Now, like I've said before, we found gods like Persephone, but we can't find Hades. He's nowhere. So Hades is not from the Mycenaean age. Hades probably appeared during the Greek Dark Ages and then made his way over in the Archaic age thanks to, the Iliad and the Odyssey and a bunch of other stories finally getting written down after, an entire Dark Age period that was caused by the Greeks. But we're not going to get into that. Hades was the god of the underworld. In practice, though, he was the god of funerals and funeral rites and things like that. So when people died, they would basically give offerings to Hades and Persephone to make sure that the people entered the underworld as peacefully as possible. Hades, the actual word, means unseen one. He fell under the most part. Don't talk about this god unless you want to invite them in. So Hades was a god of the underworld. He kept watch over the dead and accounts of them, and was mentioned in funeral rites. If you're thinking to yourself, man, that god doesn't have a lot of information on him, you're right. Why? I have no clue. Okay, if we do a bit of theory crafting, there could be one reason why, and it's really strange. Poseidon is the original god of the underworld, who was originally married to both Persephone and Demeter, and during the Dark Ages, it's completely possible that the byname that was used for Poseidon, Hades, basically developed into its own god. Everything I just said about Hades possibly being a byname of Poseidon is pure theory. It's not even my theory, it's OSP's. Go watch them. But it would make a lot of sense because that's actually happened in Greek mythology before. You ever heard of Hermes? Fun fact, he's actually Pan. Not the sexuality, I mean the god. Fun fact, sexuality didn't really matter in ancient Greek. They were all just thirsty. Another reason why this will make sense is combine that with a shorter basically lifespan than other gods like Poseidon and Persephone and the whole underworld stigma. It would make a lot of sense why there are a lot of stories that don't focus in directly on Hades. A lot of stories that basically just put him into the role of side character. We can see this with the actual myth of him taking Persephone, as well as other stories like Orpheus. So, to finally recap, Hades is god of the underworld and the dead. He was mostly practiced and mentioned during funerary rites to make sure people made it to the underworld in one piece. We don't have a lot of information about him because he didn't show up in Mycenaean Greece and you weren't supposed to talk about him.